Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome to Pandora's box, everybody. We've got some special guests in the studio again today. Actually, my barber, Darcey, and Darcey's mum, Tracy. Thanks for coming to the show, guys.
Hello.
So Darcey is my barber and the best barber in all the land. If you're in the sort of Bridgewater area, sort of Taunton, Burnham area of Somerset, and you need to get your hair cut, go to Darcey. You've just started up your new business. You're actually at your own business, haven't you?
Yeah.
The Blue Barber.
Yeah, you're making my ego go through the roof now.
Oh no, you deserve it, Darcey. You deserve it, and that's
Thanks,
in the High Street in Bridgewater, isn't it?
Yeah. Above a nail salon of all places.
Yeah. How are you enjoying that so far? Are you loving it?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, I've been into your new place several times. Loving it. Loving the vibe in there. Yeah. So yeah, if you need a haircut, go to Darcey. But the reason we've got Darcey and Tracy in the studio today is when I get my haircut by you, Darcey, we always end up talking about like loads of stuff. So we're like non-stop nattering like the whole time. And I can't remember how we got onto like the subject of like the supernatural or whatever like that. But you were telling me about how your grandmother was possessed.
Yeah.
For years, wasn't it? For years. Yeah. And we've talked about all sorts of things on Pandora's box in the past. Like for people that are like long time listeners of the show, we've gone like really off the deep end, talking about everything from like, you know, like aliens, like cryptid encounters, like spirits, like demons. You know, we've talked about so much stuff. So I thought it'd be really interesting to get almost like a first-hand account from some people that have literally had a family member that was, possessed by a demon. So, like, let's take us through your story. So it was your mother, Tracy, that was possessed by a demon. So give us a bit of background. So how did this come about? How was your mother possessed? If you know that, what sort of like led up to that, and talk us through that.
Okay, so she was trying to find her religion.
Okay.
And she was trying all sorts at that time. She had different churches. She went to the spiritualist church and she was having seances. At one stage she was doing automatic writing and talking to the dead. She kept going to clairvoyance and things like that. But she was going to the spiritualist church, and I believe it's when she went to the spiritualist church, this demon come within her.
Right. If you don't mind me asking, what do you think led to her going through this period of her life where she suddenly was like looking for a religion? What do you think that was sort of like?
Because she'd been in a really horrible marriage.
Okay.
She'd married twice, and both of them were not good people.
Right.
Their first husband used to beat her around silly.
Right.
And very often, me and my sister would sit on the stairs and listen to Dad beating the shit out of her, basically. Mm-hmm. Not a nice childhood.
Yeah, sure.
And then she met Richard, another partner, and she married him, and he turned out to be an alcoholic. And he was nasty alcoholic. Okay. And,
unfortunate with love. Yeah.
Very.
But she was also in the Swissair disaster.
What's that? The Swissair disaster?
It was a women's guild going to Switzerland for the day.
Okay.
Based in Axbridge, Cheddar, Kongsbury.
Okay.
That area. I think there was about 128 on the plane. 109 died.
Wow.
In a plane crash. My mum was supposed to have been sitting in the front seat, and she swapped her seat to sit with the rest of the family, which was sat in the back.
Right.
Unfortunately, the lady that had the seat swap died.
Wow. So that's quite like a very, very near-death experience for your mother then.
Yes.
So she'd obviously been through these marriages, been through this near-death experience, and this had left her in search of something in her life. How old was she by this point?
She was 19 when the Swissair disaster happened, because it was back in 1973. And she was in seat 21, right at the front.
She was a bit older than 19, love.
Was she?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really sure of what her age was, but it definitely wasn't 19, because I was 8 years old at that time.
Right.
Okay. Well, definitely not 19 then. I think she got married at 19.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so, sorry, where was I to?
Yeah, so yes, we were just talking about, so she'd had this near-death experience,
Yes.
been through these bad relationships, and I was asking you how old she was when she started searching for maybe some enlightenment, searching for a religion to help her.
Straight after the air crash, she knew she survived for a reason, so therefore she went searching.
Right.
Yeah, so it was in that time span.
And did you say that was late 70s, was it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And, so that's how it went. And I don't know how it happened, but I do believe it was through the Spiritualist Church. She had this entity enter her
So you
body.
weren't there at the time when this happened?
No,
So
not when it entered.
Right, so she would go there. Is this the one on West Street by any chance in Bridgewater, or there's a Spiritualist church there, isn't there?
No, in behind.
It was behind.
Do you know where the
Santander.
Hungry Caterpillar is? Just,
Oh yeah.
There's one there.
Yeah.
It used to be there.
Right, okay.
Not sure
Okay,
if
so
it
that's
was.
like right around the corner from here then, really, isn't it? Yeah. Oh right, okay.
So she had this entity, and she was to and fro in Scotland at that time because Richard was working in Scotland, and she'd come to stay with me, and she was up night after night after night. And I said to Mum, whatever is the matter? And she said, Tracy, she said, I've got this bad thing with me. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, she said, watch my hands. And literally, if you watch her hands, you could see the indents where this thing was touching her.
Okay.
It was, all over her. At one stage, it was actually having sex with her.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was awful. And she would have like this haze coming out of the top of her head. I witnessed all this.
When you say a haze, like something physically you could see.
You know, like if you see a fire and you've got that haze.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It was like that coming out the top of her head.
Okay.
She was being sick, and she was puking up like dead fish.
Oh, God.
It was putrid. And she was in a right state. We got back out of the Spiritualist Church, but they shut the door on her. They said, you didn't get it here.
Really?
They did not want anything to do
So
with her
she went there
whatsoever.
looking for help, and they
Yes.
turned their back on her?
Turned their back.
Well, so she turned up and said, I think I've got this thing, can you help me? And they just basically said no.
Yeah.
Well, that's not very decent of them, is it?
So then we had to go...
Not really.
So then we had to go phoning around
Right.
to all the local priests.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately for us, we managed to get somebody to come out, and they did an exorcist on her. They did it a couple of times, and we got rid of it.
So how long did she have this entity with her, do you think?
It was months.
Oh, it was a long time.
Yeah.
It was months.
Yeah.
Okay, and
She couldn't sleep. It was keeping her awake. It was pestering her. It was horrific.
did she ever say that she like saw it physically, or was it just something she was like aware of in
It
her
was. She never saw it like.
mind? Like I could see you now.
No,
Right.
never saw it like that.
Right.
But to have your skin move the way
Right.
it was moving, like.
So she could feel it touching her.
Oh, yeah.
And she could feel it, like she could just feel like there was a presence with her the whole time.
and it used to hold her down.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, it was not good.
And could she like hear it talking to her or anything like that? Was it anything like that, or
She never ever said anything about.
right?
I think-
And when did it ever like talk through her or anything like that? Obviously, like when you hear a lot of possession
Yeah.
cases, it almost like will talk through her, and that whole expression like speaking in tongues, like usually. Is sort of like associated with demonic possession and thing like that. Did she ever say strange things and
No.
it wasn't her talking? Okay, so she wasn't. It didn't possess her in terms of like it was like talking through her or anything like that. It was more
No.
like she was being haunted by it.
Yes,
almost.
being haunted by it.
Right. Okay, that's very interesting. And who do you think? Whoever the priest was, would mind me asking? Do you remember who it was that did the exorcism on her? Or?
Name's in her book.
It does it?
Yeah, he was a pastor at the Holy Trinity Church.
Oh, that was Peter Hart.
There you go.
Where was the Holy Trinity?
That's
Church?
up Road Lane.
Oh, okay.
Holy Trinity.
Oh, right. Do you know, off the top of my head, I didn't even know there was a little church at Road Lane. But...
Yeah, Peter Hart that was.
Right by Blake School.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and obviously you said, so your grandmother wrote a book about this whole entire experience.
Did, yeah.
Well, just before she died, because she had esophageal cancer,
Right.
she had a horrific death.
Oh, it's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
And about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month before she died,
yeah.
she wrote this book. I mean, it's only a small little book, but it's
a snippet of her life.
Her life, and her life was hell.
Was it all about, like, predominantly about this sort of, like, you know, possession or haunting, whatever you want to call it, or was it mixed in with her struggles as well?
All her struggles,
Right.
From their first marriage to the second marriage to the air crash.
Car
accidents and how she was saved.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where she
A lot of it speaks about God and
Yeah.
her relationship with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she did turn devout Christian. I can always remember her saying, Tracy, and you, Beverly, which was my sister, she said, from now on, she said, you're going to take a back seat to my life. She said, you're not going to come first anymore. She said, because Jesus Christ will be.
Wow. That's quite an intense thing to hear from you.
It really upset me.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Really upset me, but that was the choice she made.
To be fair, I think that would upset most people. You know? Yeah, quite intense. And so, what's the book called, just for people that might want to read it or find Through It All
Yeah.
by
Betty Wiggs.
Betty Wiggs.
Yeah.
Through It All by
I
Betty
don't know
Wiggs.
how many copies she made.
She
I
did
know
quite a lot, and they all got distributed.
Yeah.
Oh, so was it properly published? Was
Yeah.
it? Oh, wow. Okay. And if people wanted to get a copy, do you know? Is there like a way that somebody could, or do you know?
It would have to be through the family because I think she
Right.
only got so many made.
Okay.
I think
And
it was only like 20-ish books, but
no, I think there was more than that, Darce. There was about 50 odd.
Well, if anybody, so you do have some then yourself.
Oh, yeah, I have got a couple.
Okay, well, if
I've got
anybody,
one on me
if anybody listening wants one, then contact me, and I will talk to Darcey and
We can
Tracy,
get it
and
copied
I'll get one to you, because I mean, I'd certainly like to read it. It sounds like a really, really fascinating read. So, were you there for the exorcism, Tracy? Or
I'm just trying to think, was I? No, I wasn't there for that.
right?
I wasn't there. No, but I think Beverly was.
I think she was. In the book, it mentions Auntie Beverly being there when she was healed and everything.
Yeah.
And it mentions her when because she managed to get out of the wheelchair, didn't she, after she was healed?
Yeah.
She had a dream about Jesus, didn't she?
Yeah.
Coming and touching
Sorry,
her
so
on
was
the
this
shoulder.
this was your grandmother?
Yeah, this
she was
is
in a
her.
wheelchair,
Yeah.
and then she managed to start walking again.
She
did
woke up one morning, did her daily routine, walked to the shower, and then she started singing a hymn in the shower as she normally did. But she noticed that she was walking.
Wow.
Yeah.
And up until that point, she needed a wheelchair for how long?
She was in
Years,
the wheelchair
5
for
years.
a long time. Because if she was had her walker with her, so all of a sudden she'd go down on her knees. So she was very weak in the legs.
Was there like a medical reason why she was in a?
They
she'd
put
lost-
it down to trauma.
Okay. Well, so I think they used to call it back in the day. Was it like nervous tension? I know that they used to use that term back in the day. I don't know if it was like similar, but where
Might have been.
basically people's bodies almost start shutting down because
Yeah.
of emotional
Yeah.
trauma. I know that people. I know somebody whose like mother died, and then they basically had like so much trauma from it. They became like agoraphobic. They couldn't go outdoors,
Yeah.
and also their
Yeah.
body almost like started shutting down.
Yeah.
So they'd feel like pain in their body, like
Yes.
doing almost like normal things and stuff.
That was her.
And then all of a sudden, just one day, that was it. She just.
She
Yeah.
had this dream, and that was it. She just got up and walked to the shower.
And you said that in the dream, it was like she saw God and God touched her.
Well, she said that she was walking along and she could hear someone praying, so she slowed down to listen to him praying.
Yeah.
And then he then said, "Can I pray for you?" And then he was like, "I'm going to have to leave you now." And then she woke up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is intense, isn't
And
it?
she even got on a push bike and was on the bike round the car park,
She said,
loving life.
She said she popped over to Mum's because we lived literally across the road.
Yeah.
She walked over to your house,
Yeah.
jumped over our dog.
Wow. That's crazy. And how old was she at this point?
Oh, she was knocking on, really, wasn't she?
Yeah.
70
70 odd?
late 60s, 70.
Yeah.
Right. So, and obviously she hadn't moved like very much at all for years by this point, and all of a sudden she's like jumping over your dog and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems quite miraculous, doesn't it? That seems quite miraculous.
Yeah.
So, did she describe in much detail like the exorcism that like took place? Because I can imagine that was quite an intense.
Very intense. She said she felt so tired.
Right.
It was tiring. It absolutely drained her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had to have multiple, though, didn't she? She had to have multiple.
What?
Exorcisms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so it took more than one. Well,
Oh,
did they try once and it like didn't work, so they basically had to come back and try again and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Felt bad after every time until the final
Wow.
one. Yeah.
And then did she like describe almost like what happened in the final one, that she like actually felt like something leaving or felt this thing leaving?
Yeah. She felt it go.
Wow, and then she felt like immediate sort of like relief after that.
Yeah.
And did you say that she described it specifically as like demonic?
Oh, it was demonic.
So it wasn't like a ghost of a human or anything like that.
No.
It was demonic.
Demonic.
Wow, that's intense, isn't it?
Very.
I can only imagine like what that would feel like, to feel like you were carrying around this like demon with you wherever you went.
And it wasn't very nice watching her, you know, because I used to get up, because I suffered with insomnia pretty bad, and I used to get up with her. I used to think, oh, Mum's downstairs again, I'll get up with her. And to see your mother go through that, and you know, she was crying, she was rocking in the chair. She said, I can't sleep. She said, this thing won't leave me alone.
Yeah, that's very intense, isn't it? That's very intense. Did you ever, when you were around her during that period when she was possessed, did it feel creepy being around her? Did you feel like there was a presence with you as well?
No, I was quite calm, actually. I just didn't like the torture she was going through.
Right, so it didn't like scare you that you thought that you were maybe in the presence of like a demon?
Well, you think, oh shit.
Yeah.
You think,
Yes,
this is not good, and we've got to get this sorted out, you know, we've got to help her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Oh no, that's just quite interesting. I think a lot of people probably found that more scary than you did, but you've obviously got good fortitude, Tracy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when she was finally like successfully exercised and everything, like sort of how did her life change on that? I know you said that, you know, she was like immobile for a while and then she started walking and stuff, but was it from that moment that she became very Christian?
Yes.
Right, so she felt like she'd been then saved by God from the exorcism, and that's when she became a devout Christian.
Yes.
Right. And what was she, like Protestant, or did she not really care, or?
She was Pentecostal.
Oh, okay.
Happy clappy. And we all went to church, even me, Darcey, my sister, all my children.
Right.
Yeah, we all started going.
And did you enjoy that?
I always went
Depended
to
on the
church.
Right.
I always went to church to please me mum.
Right, okay.
To be quite honest,
Ditto.
I think churches are one of the worst places for hypocrites.
Right, yeah.
But I do have a faith.
Okay.
I do have a faith.
So you would describe yourself as Christian,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily like going to church.
Yeah.
And that's because when you say it's a place for hypocrites, can you like expand on that? So do you think that's more like to do with the people that are leading the services, or what is it about it that you find hypocritical?
I think they're two-faced. A lot of them are two-faced.
Right. Do you think that is that partly because of the memory of your mum getting turned away, you think, by that first church, you know, that turned her away after she got
That was
possessed?
the spiritualist church that turned her away.
Still Christian though, isn't it?
No.
Oh, it's not? A spiritualist church isn't
They
Christian?
say they are, but they go by a different Bible.
What Bible do they go by?
I don't know, a strange one.
Is it really? I didn't know that. I thought they were still Christian.
No.
So did you ever go to that church
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah.
So you saw the Bible that they...
Yeah, well, I went to the spiritualist church with Mum a few times.
Right, and it wasn't the Old or New Testament that they were reading out of? Oh, right.
No, they've
So
got their own.
do you think that's almost like a front then for something more sinister then? Like more like black magic and stuff like that?
Oh, I don't know.
Right. Maybe even something a bit like satanic or something.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like, just guessing, just because it's interesting. But I'm just thinking, you
It
know,
was quite funny, really, because I used to go there. I used to take my daughter there as well, and you used to go there for healing, where they used to put their hands on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned since you're not supposed to let anybody touch you, because any person could be full of these demons.
Oh, okay. Like people could be carrying
So
around this.
she could have been having healing, and that healing could have been when the demon entered her.
What she thought was healing, but it actually wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And do you think that do you think a lot of that is sort of like ignorance, like people accidentally doing that because they're not clued up, or do you think that was maybe more deliberate to try and get rid of their own baggage?
Them turning her away?
Well, like her like getting like possessed. Do you think that was anything like there was any malicious intent, like from the?
They just weren't going to accept it was from them.
Right. So it was more just like a misuse of power, like that. Yeah. They weren't being responsible with what they were doing in there.
No.
And they weren't willing to take accept responsibility for it.
I went in there one day and they had a medium talking,
Yeah.
and she come to me. She said, she said, you've got a gift. Of course, I started laughing because I was quite a rebellious little cow.
Yeah, sure.
And I can remember our mother giving me a slap saying, Tracy, pack it in. Because she was very serious with it all, you see. But I never ever took it on board.
Oh,
So I so-called had the gift, but I've never felt as if I've had any gift.
Did they expand on what gift they thought you had exactly, or?
That I could talk to the dead.
Oh, okay. Have you ever experienced anything like that yourself in your life, or?
No.
No?
No. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole.
But you've never like had anything like have you ever had anything like strange that you couldn't explain happen to you that you think that may be related to them saying that you have this sort of gift or anything like that?
It's funny you should say that, because when we were living, I used to live at number 1 Barrows Close.
Mm-hmm.
And I always used to wake up in the night talking to somebody sat on the end of my bed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? That's not like everything. So there would be somebody that obviously didn't live with you sat on the end of your bed. What did they look like, and what did they seem like to you?
Just an ordinary person.
Right. Can you like remember how they looked at all, or was it too dark in your room?
I think it was Mel.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel scared.
That's crazy.
I went straight back to sleep after the conversation.
And how old were you at the time?
When I was living there, I expect I was about 19, 20.
So you'd wake up quite calm,
Yeah.
have a conversation with this person, and then just go to sleep again at the end of the conversation. Yeah, that's quite funny, isn't it? You'd think that people would be quite distressed.
Yeah, but no, I wasn't. I was quite calm about it.
Right, crazy. Any other sort of like experiences in your life other than that one, or was that just sort of like? And how long did that go on for? Was that like did it go on for months or years or?
A couple of months, I expect.
And then that was it.
But in and out, it wasn't a constant.
No,
it was
no, of
every now
course.
and again.
Every now and again that would happen, and it was
Yeah.
just while you were living there, was it?
Yeah.
And anything happened since, or?
No,
No, that's interesting, isn't it?
no. It don't happen now, so don't bloody sleep.
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, you said that you're a Christian now, but you don't like going to church.
No.
In general, and you said do you think that is because of your bad experiences with a couple of churches? Is it? Or?
I just think they're all two-faced, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I mean, if you were going to a good church, I mean, you'd be proper shepherd. You wouldn't be told you slept with somebody and got pregnant and you've got to get married now, which that happened to me. Mm-hmm. I was expecting Chelsea out of wedlock, and the pastor said to me, well, Tracy, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it. You're going to have to marry this chap.
Right, okay.
And, and I don't think that's...
So did you do that?
Yeah, I did.
So you married, and you regret that?
No, I'm still married to him.
Oh, okay, so you don't regret that?
No, but I wouldn't have got married,
Okay.
if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. Right, so you don't regret it, but you still to this day just think you wouldn't have
I
got
feel
married.
as if I was pushed into it.
And that's what you resent?
Yeah.
Right, and you feel like they were hypocritical. What about, say, that situation do you find hypocritical? Do you feel like, say, like was it a priest that told you that?
Yeah.
So, and you thought that this person was hypocritical themselves? Or
Yeah.
Was that because you knew dirt on that person, or?
Well, I just thought, there was dirt on that person come the end, because he had a daughter that was turned out to be a lesbian, and he was a pastor of church.
Right, okay.
Double standard.
Right, yeah, I see. So he's just thinking it's like one rule for one person and a different rule for somebody else.
And I know for a fact that they were taking money out of the collection.
So like you go around, you give like money to charity because they say they're going to send it to kids in Africa and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I remember somebody put in the collection a couple of £100 actually for me to do the flowers in the church.
Right.
And that money was used for something else. It wasn't for the flowers.
Right. Well, I think that's a lot of people's problem, isn't it, with religion? It's like, and I wouldn't accuse like all religious people of this. I mean, you said yourself that you're a Christian, but it's the people that give it a bad name, and I think historically there's always been that, hasn't there? I mean, people have used religion as an excuse to start wars. They've used religion as an excuse to abuse people. I mean, obviously they had all the witch trials and the witch hunts hundreds of years ago where they used to kill women and burn them at the stake and drown them, all sorts of horrible things. All sorts of stuff's gone. I mean, obviously the Catholic Church has obviously become under a lot of fire in the last few decades, haven't they? Because it turns out that was like almost like young boy sex trafficking amongst people that were supposed to be like Catholic priests and stuff like that. I mean,
well, there you go.
Didn't the Pope just resign?
I think
for that reason?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that does ring a bell. I might have heard something about it. I don't know if he actually resigned. Did he?
One Pope did.
I thought there was just the one Pope, wasn't there?
Yeah, but there's been ever so many popes.
Oh right, yeah, maybe like the one before. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, the one before you resigned because that was the first pope.
Oh, wasn't that? Wait a minute, isn't this the Archbishop of England? Isn't this the Archbishop of Canterbury we're talking about? No. I'm sure that he's come.
He's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, he's come under fire for stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't it turn out that like one of his best friends was involved in some sort of like sexual activity with some minor or something like that?
Boys.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, and I mean, and even like churches and cathedrals themselves, they used to like deliberately build them to look quite intimidating to essentially like the peasants, if you want to call them that, the lower class people of the day, so that people would look at these amazing buildings. I mean, even today, don't you, with all of the things that we know today, you still go to a cathedral and it's such a massive, awe-inspiring building. They used to deliberately build them so impressive so that if you would go there, they would, you'd almost be like scared of the building. You'd think this building, only God could have built something like this. And then you'd go in there, it'd be very intimidating. You'd have these priests telling you that if you basically didn't do what they said, that you were going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And in those days, that would have been terrifying. You'd have just gone, oh, okay, I better do what they say then.
They used to say that when a newborn baby comes into the world, that baby is full of sin. Now, how can a baby be full of sin?
Yeah, that's an awful thing to say, isn't it?
Isn't it awful?
Yeah.
What, even just like regular churches they used to say this like that?
Yeah.
God, yeah, that's mad.
I think it's really weird though, because the way you got brought up in a church is incredibly different to my husband's.
Right.
Their belief system was never brimstone and hellfire.
So Doug's family very religious as well?
Yeah.
Right, and
Deeply.
Christian?
Yeah. They're a very different kind.
So what sort of like sect of Christianity was sort of Doug brought up on? Because obviously there's like so many different little subsects.
I'm not sure what it was, but their main church is based in Norway.
Okay.
And it's a massive hub.
I remember you saying that his family originally come from Norway.
Yeah, well, his dad's from Denmark.
Oh, okay. So his dad's from Denmark.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure where his mum's from.
Okay. But do you think going back far enough it was from Norway then?
Yeah.
Or was it just like a church that was sort of based in Norway?
It was based in Norway, but they have branches everywhere.
In Denmark. Well, it makes sense. They're like not right next.
All over
They're next to each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what were Doug's memories of going to church?
They used to do loads of different things. Their church was more active. He has got fond memories and some really terrible ones. But it was like they'd go camping, caving, and do loads of activities.
Yeah, that sounds
not like our
that sounds
church.
more fun.
Yeah.
like rather than going abseiling.
They were very active and very community driven.
Okay.
But to themselves.
Okay, that's interesting. And what about like the actual religious aspect of it? Can you like remember what did they actually say about like God and how you should be as a person? Does he ever like say anything about that or?
Not what their church would tell him to do. It was more he's got his own belief systems himself. He just says he just needs to be a good person.
That's very interesting then. So that seems like a very like loose, almost like very like loose interpretation. Almost like it's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
That's almost a bit strange, isn't it?
But I think he left when he was a teenager, whereas his mum and sister are still involved in it.
Right.
And I'm not entirely sure on their belief system.
Did he just leave because he just sort of had enough of it? It wasn't any particular reason? Or...
He just didn't like how it was, really. It was very boys and girls separate.
Okay.
Very old school.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about like yourself? What are your like personal memories, Darcey? Or, like, so was it literally from your earliest memories you were like involved in going to church and stuff like that? And...
Yeah. I mean, I'm an atheist now. I'm not exactly religious anymore, but...
So you don't believe in God?
No.
At all?
Not
Does that
really.
bother you at all, Tracy? Or...
Yeah, it does bother me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm more like probably agnostic in a way. If I saw something, then
So
maybe.
you don't. So you wouldn't say that you don't believe in God. You just say that you don't know enough to decide one way or another.
Yeah, I think there's a higher power out there. Whether it's a God, I don't know.
Oh, okay, interesting. So yeah, what are your sort of memories of church? Did you enjoy going to church when you were younger?
I loved church when I was younger. I really did. I have fond memories of. Was Dad a Sunday school teacher?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was.
Yeah. So they both taught me Sunday school, and we were in chain breakers for a while. I got baptised when I was 8 by my own choice, because basically...
That's a fully submerged baptism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did that happen?
In the church.
Yeah.
Oh, actually...
So...
But when you're 8, that's like, you'd need a big font, wouldn't you?
Yeah. They had a great big hole in the middle of the... Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, sorry, it's just in my mind, because I don't know too much about it. I picture like the little bowls almost, you know, where you see babies go in. I thought, how could
I know what
Darcey
you
fit in
mean.
that when she's 8 years old?
8 years old. Still was quite a tall 8-year-old as well. Not grown since then.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
No, it was a church called Chain Breakers, and now it's Silver Tree, the Chinese restaurant in town.
Oh, yeah, so
that was a
that
church.
became Jesus is Lord.
Yeah, so you used to have a great big sign.
And my one of my old best friends, him and his mum and dad used to live above that.
Oh,
so his
wow.
mum and dad, Laura and Mark Durant, they lived above Jesus is Lord.
Holliges.
Yeah, they were
Laura Hollidge.
They were related to the Holliges, weren't they? Or?
But Laura was the daughter.
That's it. So Laura has a sister as well,
Yes.
who's now a Duddridge. I know
Yes,
that.
yes.
But yeah, so Laura was Lyle's mum. Laura Durant, because she married Mark Durant.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's her name now. I knew it rang a bell, but I can't remember. So that was her maiden name, is it, or Laura's maiden name?
Laura Hollidge is her maiden name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went to school with Laura.
Did you? Did you?
Small world.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you knew much about Jesus as Lord, but yeah, so they both lived above there, and they were devout Christians. So they used to go down there, and I think they used to sort of encourage Lyle and his little brother Jordan to do it, but they weren't really bothered. Lyle was like a real naughty boy. Funnily enough, actually I won't talk about this because I don't know if I should too much, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff to do with like possessions and stuff on that side of the family, but it's not my story to tell, and I don't know if they would mind me talking about it, so I'm not going to start talking
That's
about
what
it.
I'm like with Doug and his family. I'm like, not my story to tell.
Yeah, sure. It's
Let
obviously
them
it's
do
different.
it.
As soon as you've been given the green light, it's different, isn't it? But
Yeah.
Mum always used to say when she used to visit my house, she used to come in and pray when it was just me and Lisa living on our own before Chelsea and Darcey came along. She'd come in and she'd pray through the house quite a lot. And she said she went up into what used to be your bedroom, Darcey, and she said she could see this cloud with a face going around the room.
What, in Darcey's room?
Amazing.
A cloud with a face?
Yeah.
That's like something from a mental CBeebies programme.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
And she said this thing was laughing. Frightened our Lisa to death. Honestly,
I'm
it
not
did.
surprised.
Sorry, who's Lisa?
Lisa's
My
my
eldest
daughter.
sister. Yeah.
Oh, right. So she used to say this about you. Were you like too young to even
I
register it at
wasn't
the time?
there, I don't think. Was I? Was I even born?
No, you were a twinkle in my tummy.
Yeah.
Wow. And sorry, did you say that was your mum that said that? Wow. So your mum used to say that there was a cloud with a face that was going around Darcey's room laughing.
Yeah, she had to pray it out.
Yeah.
She had to pray it out. So she prayed for this cloud to go.
Yeah.
What? So she thought that it could somehow do some damage, or that it just wasn't meant to be there, or
But Lisa was not a sleeper,
right?
and we think that this thing was keeping her awake.
Interesting.
There's
That's strange.
some
isn't it?
real spooky stories with that room, though.
We've got some really spooky stories.
Really
Well, yeah, no.
spooky stories.
Well, please do tell. Please do tell.
I remember Nan telling me she would go around people's houses and she'd sensed objects that were evil.
Yes, that's true.
Like when you say objects, do you mean just like everyday objects?
Could be a stick. It
Wow.
was a stick once, wasn't it? She
Could be a stick. Was a stick,
yeah,
actually.
it was a stick.
Wow.
She went round, was it a friend's house, or she got asked to go in and to walk around because just something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it was a stick. Someone had been gifted this stick by someone.
What sort of stick
Is it like a wand?
Yeah, like,
Wand?
Yeah, like a wooden.
Yes.
And she was given it. and
That's
it
quite like an old
just-
present, isn't it? Here, have this magic wand.
His.
Do you know what I mean? Like, all
Here,
right.
have this wand. Have
Someone's
this
been watching
stick.
too much Harry Potter.
Yeah. But I remember she come into my room,
Yeah.
and I was terrified of Nan when I was really young. 'Cause
Sounds like she was quite intense.
She could
yeah,
be.
she could be. Yeah.
Well, it's
But,
quite an intense thing for her to say to you, like, sorry, you're not number one in my life anymore, like Jesus is. Like, that in itself is so intense.
Yeah.
And almost, like, a bit unnecessary as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if she thought
Did
that,
she
why
have to say it?
why did she tell you that? Like, like you
Yeah,
could have just
I
kept
mean-
that to herself, but I don't know, maybe she felt like it was really important to say for some reason. I don't know, like, get it out loud. But sorry, Darcey, go on with what you were
No,
saying.
that's all right. I was obviously very into like emo music, and
Yeah.
I had a Black Veil Brides album,
Yeah.
and in amongst all my CDs and everything, she picked it out, and she was like, "No, no, this is really evil. You cannot have this." And I think it got snapped and put in the bin.
When she said it was evil, did she expand on why? Like, did she think it was like the CD itself in terms of the music that was evil, or was it
I'm
like
gonna assume very much yes.
right? So it
because
wasn't.
it
It wasn't
was-
like that specific.
It was "We Stitch
Piece of
These
music.
Wounds"
Right.
by Black Veil Brides, and one of the songs on there was "Sweet Blasphemy."
Okay. Probably not best
Probably
for a devout
not
Christian.
fantastic for a devout Christian to find. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So was she like looking through them, reading the?
No, she just
She
she
just
didn't
picked
even
it
look.
out.
She just picked it out and was like, "This is not okay."
She did the same with your dad's.
AC/DC album.
Yeah, it was AC/DC.
Oh, like Highway to
stuff.
Hell and all
Yeah.
this stuff. Yeah.
Got rid of that. She said, "You know that heavy metal is satanic, don't you?"
Really.
Yeah.
Really. Oh well, I'm screwed then.
Also,
Me and all my mates are screwed.
he used to
I
be
mean-
into
I mean-
Bruce Lee as well.
You used to say Bruce Lee was satanic.
Yeah. So she had to get rid of all of that.
What about Bruce Lee was satanic in her eyes?
Because the martial arts
Right.
was satanic.
Did she expand on why she thought it was satanic, or
No.
she didn't? She just
No.
said that the martial arts was satanic. Well, did that apply in her mind to all martial arts?
Yes.
So she's not
Even
all
down
martial
to
arts?
yoga.
Really?
But there is something to do with yoga where it is very satanic. It's very new agey as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you that it's new agey, and it's almost like a bit douchey in that regard, isn't it? It's like it's the whole
I like
like
yoga.
it's the whole like, hey, look at my man bun. I'm gonna wear like hemp trousers and like, you know, listen to some like weird meditation music and eat way too many avocados while I like show you these yoga moves. And it's a bit like, all right, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a bit of like a jumping on the bandwagon thing, isn't it? I think in these
Nan
days.
used to do meditation when she was part of the Spiritualist Church,
Right.
and she says in her book that like she would go to like really weird and wonderful places during her meditation sessions.
Yeah, she would see shapes
Yeah.
and stuff when she was in this meditation.
So it was almost like she was having a like a,
body
a psychedelic
experience.
experience or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah, just with no drugs.
Yeah, that's. I think I genuinely think. Yeah, I think if you're like a certain type of person, I don't think you need drugs. I don't think. I think if you're like in the right environment and in the right mood for it, I think you can sort of channel these things. I think that some people maybe. I think some people that maybe do take drugs are incapable of that, or maybe they're too impatient to get to it naturally, so they take a drug as a way of getting them to that state unnaturally. But I think that I don't know what you guys think about this. The older I got, and obviously like I think we all have like friends and stuff that have maybe like experimented with drugs or maybe like ourselves and things like that, and I think that sort of like what goes around comes around, and I'm a big believer in balance. So I think that if you take something that say gives you an incredible high, at some point then you're going to have to reach an incredible low. And I think you see this very much so, don't you, with like celebrities and like that you hear become like addicts and things like that. Like they take it at first almost like as a fun thing to do. Like you've become famous, you're rich, okay, you're at this party, you do a drug, and then at first it's like you don't need the drug, you're doing it for fun. But then after a while you rely on the drug for fun, and then when you're your normal state, you're like really low and you're depressed. So then what you end up doing is it's that expression chasing the dragon. You're trying to find that you're trying to get back to that really good, to when you felt your best, and you never can.
No.
And then a lot of people, it even ends in like suicide and stuff like that. So I think like personally for me, I think like it's best to stay clear of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Even though, as I said, like, I'm an open-minded guy, so I'm open-minded with like a lot of things, but I just think with that sort of thing, like if I had to say give advice to say like a 15, 16-year-old, I would say, look, if your mates start doing stuff like that, stay clear of it, because it's more likely to go bad than it is to go good. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Exactly that.
I just had so many people that suffer with loads of social anxiety, trapped in their own homes because of drugs, and a friend that was really addicted to cocaine. Yeah. And she was horrible on it, and she'll say so herself. Even now, she hated the person she was. Yeah. And the thing is as well, like, regardless of like all of these different drugs have like different negatives, but it's like with something like cocaine, it can make you like aggressive and almost like annoying to be around. But let's face it as well, even from a financial standpoint, like it's very expensive. Well, she just
where are you getting your money from to like where are you getting your money from to like afford all this? And you're obviously crippling yourself financially. I knew of somebody who I think is an absolute lowlife, who me and my friend found out was he had such a bad cocaine habit, he'd become such an addict. He was stealing off his disabled mother. He was his mother's primary carer, and his father was no longer around, so she completely relied on him for everything. She was disabled. And he was like stealing her money and jewellery and selling her jewellery and stuff to try and keep up with cocaine. And I think, like, how low can you possibly get in life? Do you know what I mean? To do something really like that. Do you know what I mean? That's just absolutely awful. I know another person who was in my year at school who got really into doing psychedelic drugs, and they've been like, in and out of like a mental home for like the last sort of 10 years.
Wow.
And like every now and again I might bump into that person like just very briefly in town, and they'll be like, "Oh, right, Calum," and it's like they're not even this person I remember them being. No, they're like a fraction of the person that they were. I remember them being in school. Like in school, they were like with it together. They were quite funny and had a personality, and were almost like one of the bigger characters in the year. But we just went far too off the deep end with drugs and stuff, and now it's I really feel for them. Like, every time I see him, I feel like really, really bad for the guy. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like I can see he's completely ruined his life. And I can tell he's never going to get it back. No. It's too gone. I think once your mind's that far gone, you're never going to get it back again.
No.
It's too much. It's like smashing a pot into a million pieces.
It's very sad.
You know?
Well, I'm very proud of my friend, in fairness. She was my best friend growing up. And she survived a suicide attempt and everything after her cocaine addiction.
Really?
Yeah, she had a 3-day coma, bless her.
Wow.
Yeah. But now she's amazing. She's 100% sober, doesn't even drink, doesn't smoke cigarettes, nothing.
Wow.
Now she lives with her partner's family with their 4 dogs, 3 dogs.
So was that like a suicide attempt that made her go into that coma, or?
Yeah.
Right. And then did she have almost like an epiphany after that? Like it made her see the light, and then she had like a major life
switch up. She got into a really healthy relationship, because she was in a relationship when she went through that, and her girlfriend dumped her because she was comatose. Yeah.
That's crazy. What was your mum's like opinion on intoxicants? Did she think that was like a gateway to like evil and stuff like that? So she was very, very serious on that.
Oh yeah.
Do you like drink alcohol and things like that? You don't drink, so you like a teetotaler?
I am.
I completely, and that's because
she's high on life.
I used to. I used to drink. It's just I used to drink just to get myself to sleep at one stage, but I just one day sort of stopped and thought, this can't carry on, and I just stopped.
So wasn't necessarily like, was that like a religious thing, or was that was just because you
just because I didn't want to anymore?
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, fair enough. I mean, like, to be honest, I'm like pretty similar. Like I drink socially.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't really go out socially nowadays. Do you know what I mean? I'm in like my mid-30s nowadays. I've got a daughter. Do you know what I mean? I've got too many responsibilities and stuff like that. So it's like, I might drink like 6 times a year. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. Might be a little bit more. Might be a little bit less, depending on the year, sort of thing. But I would never like just sit at home and have a drink. Never sit at home. So no, it's interesting. Going back to what you were saying about like your mum and your grandma about some dark stories about how she used to think things were like evil and that. Can you give me any more sort of like interesting tales about that?
Very strange things happened after the Swissair disaster, the plane.
Right.
It was a lot of mothers died in that plane crash. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there was 109 died.
Only 35 survived.
35 survived, was it?
Yeah, left 55 children motherless or something.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I was 8, I'm 60 now, so it just goes to show how long ago it was. But there was always stories. My auntie was supposed to have been going on the plane trip, and she had a dream that the plane was going to crash, and she cancelled it.
Really?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And on the night that when the plane crashed, nobody knew who was dead or alive. Mm-hmm. We didn't know that Mum was alive even. We just all presumed she was dead because they kept giving out the wrong name. Mm-hmm. And I remember all 3 of us, my dad and my sister and me, all slept together with Dad that night. We were all sobbing. And I can remember looking up and saying, "Stop crying. You just need to stop crying now, because Jesus has just told me that Mum is coming home and the flowers are blooming and she will be home." And I stopped, and they stopped crying. So something was telling me
that your mum was okay.
She was okay. And what happened was they got her name wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And then she come home, and that's when a lot of things started changing then.
Like what?
Because Mum then thought, I'm not staying with him any longer.
So this is when she left her second partner?
That's when she left the first one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Because there's no way she was going to put up with the beatings anymore.
Yeah, sure.
And, yeah. But also on the night of the plane crash, I was going to say to you, was my cousin was walking past the graveyard. Because Chestnut Avenue, where I used to live, if you get to the bottom of that road, you've got to walk past the graveyard to get into Axbridge Square.
Which graveyard is this? I can't...
Do you know Axbridge?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you go up through the church steps, there's a lane.
Okay.
Well, I always used to go down that lane to get to school.
Right.
In those days. And my cousin was actually walking, and all he could hear coming from the graveyard was howling. And he always said it was the dead crying for the dead.
The dead crying for the dead? What, like in almost like mourning each other sort of thing?
It was like a howling noise coming from the graveyard.
Wow.
Quite a whine. Was
this just like once that you had that? Or... That's very interesting. I have to say, like, for some reason, I know obviously because some people find cemeteries very like scary places. I've always found them quite relaxing, quite calming.
I find them peaceful. I walk around them and everything.
Yeah, I sort of from sort of between the ages of 8 and 18, I lived with my parents in West Huntsville. You know, just sort of like out in between Paulet and Burnham.
Yeah.
And there's a really nice little church there. It's a very quiet little village. It's sort of a village like nothing really goes on there ever. But I used to would sometimes when I was a bit older, I just walk around at night to the cemetery and I just sit on the bench in the cemetery. And I expect to some people that probably a bit of a weird thing to do.
No, I've done the same
Darcey's
thing.
done it.
Yeah, but if it was like a nice sort of, especially if it was a like a full moon or something, and it was quite bright, I'd find it quite relaxing just to sort of sit there, and I feel like it was like a peaceful place, not like a scary place.
No, mine was like 1 year. I think it was during COVID. In fairness, it was lockdown and it was New Year's. I got kind of drunk, and it got to midnight, 1 a.m. Couldn't sleep, and I walked all the way out to. I lived on Northfield, and I walked all the way to the cemetery, Quantock Cemetery, where my granddad and my nan were buried, and I went up there and I just sat with them for a couple hours and then walked home.
Well, your loved ones at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's why they've got their gravestone there, so that their loved ones can go and remember you. You know.
Yeah.
That's nice. So dark stories. I'm intrigued by these dark stories. Is there any other sort of dark stories you can think of, or when you say dark stories, that's the thing. I think the thing that intrigues me. You're like saying, shall I say what I'm about to say? All right, let me just ask you some other questions then. Well, I'll let you sort of think about that in the background, because I remember you said that your mother told your husband not to listen to AC/DC and metal and stuff. So what was your dad's called Ray?
Yeah.
Is that right? So what was Ray's opinion sort of all of this? Like, did he take it in? What was his views?
He took it in, but he was very reluctant to get rid of it.
Right. So did he actually get rid of it?
Yeah, he did.
So he did get rid of it. He took it that seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, fair play to him. And obviously you said he was very.
And now he regrets it big time because he's lost thousands and thousands of pounds because he had a full kit of everything AC/DC.
Wow.
So if you go on eBay now, he's looking at stuff that he'd had that's worth thousands of pounds.
Right. Yeah, like proper collector's items.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you said that.
Stuff.
So to this day, is he like very Christian to this day?
Dad.
I think we sort of.
I think he's the same as you. He has his belief, but I wouldn't say...
So he believes in God, but he's anti-church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost anti-establishment.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So you very both are anyway,
Yeah.
aren't you? Very anti-establishment and stick it to the man types.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironic.
Anarchy.
Power to the people.
Yeah,
big
sure.
time.
Sure. Okay.
No, I'm one of those that I just don't like being told what to do, basically, and
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
rebel
Yeah,
big
fair
time.
enough. Yeah. Oh, fair play.
We're very similar.
Was
like that.
Was your dad? Was Ray religious when you met him?
No.
So you basically turned him religious, did you?
Yes.
Right. And what was his opinions on everything that like your mum went through and everything like that? Has he ever like spoken to you about that? Like what he thinks about that?
No, but he accepts it
Right.
because he's had funny experiences himself.
Yeah, Dad's seen some supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Like what? Like,
He saw his granddad, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he saw somebody down Poden Street sat in the corner of his bedroom.
Yeah. But he said it was like a lady, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
It
and
was,
really old-fashioned clothes.
Yeah. And she wasn't scary to him, I don't
No.
think. No. Again, like you, just quite calm. Would have a conversation with her and that's it.
well, and he thinks that he got visited by his grandfather after his grandfather died as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
Okay.
his dad's death was quite supernatural in itself.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So like, what happened there? If you don't mind me asking.
He had motor neurons disease, and he was really frail come the end, wasn't he? And he would have conversations with his mum before he passed away, and he was saying that he'll wait until after Christmas because he died early January time. Yeah, and he was saying, "No, I'm not ready yet, Mum. I'm not coming yet." And then he waited until after Christmas and New Year was over, and then he died. Just so we didn't.
But he waited for your grandmother to go out the room to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, he waited for Nan to leave.
Yeah.
Nan in her grief, I'm not entirely sure if...
Well, he just thought he didn't want her. He just thought he didn't want her to experience him dying.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But he was a very proud man.
Yeah, very
and
proud.
he was adorable. He was the sort of guy that would say, Tracy, there's always somebody out there a lot worse than I am.
Okay.
Yeah. But my mum used to say that as well. My mum always used to say, even though she had esophageal cancer and she had a horrific death where she catapulted blood, she hemorrhaged.
Awful. Yeah.
And yeah, it was
So she was basically a very half glass full. They were very glass half full people. They were counting their blessings, as you call it. So
Yeah,
they
very much.
even through misfortune, they were counting themselves lucky people
Oh yeah.
because they were thinking, well, compared to some people in the world,
Yeah.
I've had it really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful
Always.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is a beautiful
Yeah.
thing for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And like Nan, when Grandad passed away, I don't know if it's quite a supernatural thing or not, but she could smell his tobacco because he was quite a heavy pipe smoker.
Yeah, different
When-
smells.
Yeah, she would smell him around the house.
Do you know what?
Everywhere.
I had a strange experience like that, but only once. That you might find interesting. So my mum's biological father was not like a very pleasant guy. So obviously it was very, very different back in sort of like the late 50s, very different times to now. So when my grandmother first met my biological grandfather, who's now dead, in the late 50s, apparently he was a very intelligent man and a very charming man. So he sold himself to her. That he, had a good job and blah, 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 the rest of it. And he did always seem to have like a lot of money and, dress very well. And it's not like you could do background checks on people the same in those days. Like nowadays, you can all go on like social media and at least just, you can snoop sort of. It's a bit easier. Yeah, it's a bit easier. But in those days, obviously, there was none of that. So anyway, she ended up getting married to this chap and ended up having my mother. It was only after my mum was sort of like a toddler, she found out that this guy was like a criminal. He was like essentially like a gangster. Wow. So she left him and like sort of like disappeared like one night and moved, down to Somerset and blah, 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 the rest of it. And she didn't know how, but he kept sort of like finding her, and he would be quite sinister and quite menacing and threatening, blah, 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 the rest of it. I know he like held a gun to like my mum's head at one point and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, my grandmother eventually remarried. Obviously, that gave a level of stability. Obviously the police got involved, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he used to always smoke these specific cigarettes. I can't remember which ones they were now, but it's like they used to find it, like one of the things that they used to find sinister when they were moving around Somerset trying to escape from him is that, like, they'd go out the front door in the morning and there'd be like a pile of cigarette butts, and it was like the ones that he would smoke. Oh. So he'd like been there in the night, like watching them, like through the windows and stuff like that. And it was really strange, actually. So very, very shortly after he died, I think I was like 14 at the time, so this is like 2004. My old man was asleep, and my older brother, was out in Bristol, and it was just me and mum just that were up, but we were in separate rooms. I remember I was actually in the living room watching some wrestling, like late at night, and there was like this like little window in the corner of the living room, and there was like a bang on the window. And I thought it was my brother who'd just come home from Bristol, trying to like scare his little brother as you do. So I just flipped him off. I just flipped off the window and just got back to like watching wrestling. But then about 20 minutes went by and I thought, that's really weird. Like, actually, it's like I got back into the telly and then it suddenly dawned on me that nobody had come through the door. So I thought, well, if it was obviously my brother, he's not just hanging around outside, is he? He would have come in. Yeah. He would have like gone by the window like, her, and then just come in straight away. So I was like, oh, Mum, is Sam come home? And then she's like, no, he's out in Bristol all night. And then suddenly it dawned on me that it was like quite freaky then, what had happened. And I was like, no joke, there was like a bang on the window, like a really loud one. It wasn't like something you could miss. It was like a proper like dong, dong, dong. I was like, somebody banged on the window in the living room. And my mum was like, no way. And I was like, I've got to go out and investigate. And there was like, my dad used to play hockey when he was younger, so I took a hockey stick and went outside thinking I'm going to like batter something if they're out here. Couldn't see anyone around, so I sort of like walked to the bottom of the lane. They're at the end of like a little no-through road with only a few houses. So I walked sort of up the lane, and then there's like the main road for the cars, but then just off from that there's like a little country lane that comes out by a field. And as I was sort of like looking down that little lane in the dark, when you just feel like someone's watching you. And I thought, like, I reckon whoever banged on the window's down there. And my mum stayed at the bottom, and I was like, Mum, stay here. I'm going to go down there and just like see if there's anybody about. And I got about halfway down there, and I was looking around, and I could smell really strongly cigarette smoke. Really, really strong cigarette smoke, and my mum could smell it too. And she said that it was like the same smell that from the cigarettes that her father used to smoke when she was little. And then just as I sort of felt at ease, just as I thought that there was nobody down this like dark lane, a branch snapped above my head in like the tree that was down the lane and like landed right next to me, and I ran back down the lane, and me and my mum went in the house. And then like the next day my mum found out that my dad had died like the day before. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't make what you want of that, but I just always thought...
as well as when my dad died, which he died 2 years ago, September.
Yeah.
He died. He came down on the Sunday. He went into hospital on the Wednesday. So that Sunday that he come down to spend the day with me was to give his partner a bit of a break. Mm-hmm. But he did look so poorly. I thought, you're not going to be on this planet much longer, Dad, are you? And he was so frail. But him and my sister, they've never seen eye to eye. There was something happened in the family years and years ago, and they've never spoke.
Right.
And all the grandchildren came up, and all of a sudden, Beverly, my sister, she's knocked on the door. And I thought, shit, You know, better run out and tell her that Dad's here, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out. I said, Beverly, Dad's in here. You know, do you want to come in? And she said, you know what, Tracy? She said, I'm coming in. He don't bother me anymore. He's an old man.
Mm.
She come and she sat at the table, and my dad said, who's that? And I said, that's Beverly, Dad.
Mm.
And he cottoned on then that it was his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he was there looking at her quite a lot, you know. But we had conversation. We got on all well and everything. And I took him home that night. He didn't say anything. I suppose he was just pondering that, you know, Beverly was there, kind of thing. And when he got home, he was talking to Joe, his missus, or Beverly was there, and the grandchildren were there, and then he got taken into hospital on the Wednesday with a UTI and a chest infection.
Right.
And he died on the previous Sunday.
All right.
So I do believe that it was God's intervention there, because he got to see Beverly before he died.
Wow. Okay.
And all the grandchildren.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Darcey, it'd be really interesting to ask you. So, obviously, you went to church. Obviously, when you were growing up. Obviously, like your mother, your father, still Christian to this day, even though they're anti-establishment. Your grandmother was extreme. Quite an. If you didn't mind me saying, it seems like she was quite an extreme Christian by the end of her life. So if she said, saying to her children that she loves Jesus more than them, and that is quite extreme. What made you decide that you weren't a Christian anymore?
I don't actually know.
No?
I think it was forefront in our lives growing up, and it took over everything.
So do you think you almost had enough of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full on just rebelled from it at that point.
Ironic in a way that you said that you've got a rebellious personality,
We're
and that obviously
similar.
went into your daughter, and that led her obviously to rebel against Christianity.
Yeah.
There's sort of like a bit of an irony in that, isn't there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just
So you decided that you sort of had enough of it, you know, there's more to life.
just too much. And I think if there is something out there, then if I can be a nice enough person my entire life,
Yeah. Just be like a really decent,
just be
moral
a decent
person.
human being,
Yeah.
don't do anything horrible,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm not going to live by the 12 commandments and
You're just gonna use your own moral compass to obviously do right by people.
just want to be a decent human being.
honest.
And honestly,
kind
I
human being.
learnt that through my husband.
Yeah.
That is his understanding. He's like, whatever God is out there, if I'm nice and I do my bit, then I'll go to a good place, hopefully.
Yeah, to be honest, Darcey, I'm like exactly the same as you in that regard. So it's like, I would say I'm like agnostic, so the same. So I wouldn't say I'm atheist, because atheist obviously means that you don't believe in a God. So I would just say, I think it's almost arrogant to say that, because I think at the end of the day,
no one knows.
we're just like animals on a big rock in space, aren't we?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? At the end of that's what we are, right? So it's like, if I said so arrogantly that I know that there isn't a God or something like that, then that's quite... I feel like, well, how would you know that?
Well, we didn't
Do you know
know
what I mean?
there
How
was
would you know?
aliens until...
Well, yeah,
know?
exactly, right. So I think, and also there's always new discoveries coming out, isn't there? Like every year there's new discoveries, and it's like, oh, okay, but the people didn't believe in those discoveries before they came out, you know. So it's like,
Exactly.
I think that like I'm open-minded, but similar to you, it's like it's still important to me to try and be as like a really decent human being. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously we're only human, so we can't be
perfect.
decent all the time, but just at least try.
Yeah.
You know, if you see somebody in need, help them out. You
Yeah.
know, like do right by people, try and be honest to people.
Yeah.
Like don't like lie or deceive, like things like that. You know, that's how I try and live my life. Like
That's me. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a sort of a gentle giant, really, and quite a fun-loving character. But I think, in a way, I kind of rebelled as well. I've always been very anti-establishment. I mean, I never went to school. The teachers weren't going to tell me what to do.
yeah,
But I'm not a bad person. I'd give my last penny to anyone,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore my children and my grandchildren. I mean, I give my life to my
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah,
We're
100%.
very family orientated, though, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Obviously, you said that, you know, even though you're anti-establishment, you're still Christian. Do you feel
Would
like...
you call it Christianity, though? Or would you just think somebody with a belief?
Well, I think it depends. Like, so do you believe in the Christian God? You believe in Jesus, and you believe in like Lucifer, the fallen angel, all of that, the devil?
I know where there's good, there's bad. I do know that. I do know there is demonic entities because I've proved that. I've seen it. So I do believe, well, where there's one, there's the other.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Yeah, it's a bit like what I was saying earlier about like balance, isn't it? And about why I think it's dangerous to do certain drugs, because if it takes you too high, I think at some point, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be the next day, it might not even be the next month, but at some point, there has to be the equivalent low. So I would rather almost like be somewhere in the middle, which I think is like your normal sober state, you know, and just almost be content in life, rather than trying to constantly search these insane highs, because then unfortunately you're also going to crash to these insane lows, which is, it's far too up and down. Like nobody's mind, I think, can deal with that in the long run.
No.
Well, nobody's come back from the dead, have they, to tell us? So
No.
it's one of those that we've got to work our way through it.
Do you believe that? Like, do you believe in Jesus?
I believe there was a man called Jesus, but you've got to remember that the letter J didn't come into the Bible, didn't come into play, so he wasn't called Jesus.
Oh, you don't think? Oh, right, okay. I've never heard that.
His name was Yeshua.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard that. I
Yeah.
think. Was that? Wouldn't have that been? Is that? Am I right in saying that's what the? What like his name would have been in Hebrew, because he was obviously a Jew himself, wasn't he? But he was a Jew that believed he was the Son of God, and that's when the branch between Judaism and Christianity started.
Yeah.
I think. Okay, so you believe there was a man called Jesus. Obviously, do you believe in the whole Easter story that he rose from the dead and all that stuff, or do you not? Would you just say you don't really know? Don't want to touch on
I
that?
don't really know.
Right. Okay. That's cool. And do you believe that when we die, you either go to heaven or go to hell? Do you believe that, or?
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough.
Really don't
know.
know.
It's just interesting to ask. Yeah. Yeah.
I think my way of changing since the COVID thing started, my way I've gone down through so many rabbit holes now, and the religion thing has been tampered with. The Bible's been tampered with left, right and centre by the establishment, the elite, then the bankers. All wars are bankers' wars, that kind of thing. It's all been manipulated, and all religious stuff, that's where all the wars start. You know, it's not good.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think like a good portion, obviously, the wars in history have been religious wars, haven't they? A good portion of them, and a lot of the bad stuff you hear about in the media today is tied to religion, isn't it? You know, it's like religion based, whether it's like extremists doing, you know.
I mean, the Muslim people, now the Christians were, when I was going to church, were dead against the Muslims. The Muslims were going to come, they were going to take over. And we were brainwashed to think that. But a lot of Muslims are very lovely people.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. I think it's important to remember that, people from every single walk in life can be very decent, very decent, lovely human beings. Not to, that's where obviously the saying, like, you should never judge somebody, should you, on their background or overly generalize. You know, you shouldn't say like, okay, well, this person is, that believes this, as a result they must be bad, or this person believes that as a result they must be good. You could have somebody that's almost exactly like you in terms of their upbringing, their beliefs, but they could be a complete scumbag. They could be they could literally be a murderer. Do you know what I mean? Or you could have somebody from the opposite side of the planet to you that has completely foreign beliefs to you, and they could be like the nicest person you've ever met in your life.
Yeah, well, it's another thing, like, I could never comprehend that on your dying deathbed, you've gone out, you've raped people, you've murdered people, and on your deathbed you can say, "Help me, Jesus." All of a sudden, you're going to heaven. Now,
I think
that don't tally up.
I think that's I assume that's most likely what you meant earlier on when you said you think that like the church and that is hypocritical, and I completely agree with you with that. That's one of the things that I always used to think, like growing up as well, is just that idea that almost like it doesn't matter how corrupt you are as a person, but as long as you go to church on a Sunday and you wear a cross, then you're all right. Well, then that doesn't
say sorry on your deathbed.
Yeah, that doesn't add up, does it? That doesn't really add up. To me, I think you'd have to like almost like prove it a little bit more.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things now over the years I question.
Right.
I do question.
What are your thoughts on things like would you ever go to like a clairvoyant? What do you think of like clairvoyants? You don't?
No.
Yeah, for what reason?
I do believe they are demonic.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Even if
we
like
were always told that.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, okay. What, like, even if they don't realise it themselves and things like that, you think?
I went to see a clairvoyant years before I became a Christian, and tell you what put me right off. I sat in the chair, and he said, "Oh, I've had a hell of a week," he said, this clairvoyant. And I said, "Why's that then?" And he said, "Well," he said, "the spirits have been playing games with me." He said, "The electric bill's gone sky high." He said, "They're turning the lights on and off all night, and the noise." And I thought, that don't sound right to me. Don't sound right.
Okay. For what reason did you? Because obviously you're somebody that has obviously, from your own experience, you believe like a lot of strange, very supernatural things have happened in your life. So what about this person didn't you believe?
If they sounded like demonic evil spirits to me that would be playing pranks on somebody like that.
Like the poltergeist types.
Yeah.
Yeah, a poltergeist is different though, isn't it? I think from like a demon.
Spirit.
Yeah, so a poltergeist is is more of like a spirit or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Rather than
still demonic.
Right. Okay. Okay. Right. So you think that poltergeist and demons are like the same thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you think it's like So am I right in thinking that you think it's a misconception that people think that these things are like dead people and that they're actually demons tricking people? Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're always told.
Yeah.
You always
No,
told
I
us
do.
that.
I do. Yeah.
So do you think?
And these clairvoyants will tell you some home truths, mind. They will. They said to my mum that she would have a new circle of friends. And of course she went to the church and had a whole new circle of friends. The clairvoyant once told me that I wouldn't be empty for long. I had Chelsea and Darcey 14 months between each other.
Okay.
So there is a matter of truth. So I believe it's the demonic side sucking you in, pulling you in.
Right, so what do you mean to like these clairvoyants themselves? You think they're almost, is that what you mean? So you think that they're giving them information and almost luring the clairvoyant in and making them believe things so that then they can then relay that information then to the people that are coming to them?
Yeah.
Okay, so you almost think that they're being like tricked?
Yeah.
That's intriguing, isn't it? Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I never know what to make of that whole thing. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't go and see one now.
Yeah.
No way would I.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't want to know my future anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know one personally, and they're like a very good person, and I can tell that they aren't a fraud in terms of I can tell that they believe it. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, like with most things, my views on most things, like same as you, Darcey, like I think that it's impossible for me to say one way or another. Yeah. But I'm always intrigued to hear different perspectives and different people's opinions on them, because obviously that's how you learn as a human being, right. Isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, that's very intriguing. No, I thought it would be interesting to hear your opinion on that. So do you not think that people can come back as ghosts and things like that? You think it's all demonic and things like that?
I think it's demonic.
Yeah.
But then you hit the realm of like purgatory and stuff like that, don't you? Do you believe that's a thing?
Yeah, purgatory is supposed to be, isn't it? Like if you
between worlds.
Yeah, it's almost like, or can't you
don't believe that.
You don't believe that?
No, I don't believe in purgatory.
Yeah, I mean, it's from my understanding, isn't it? Almost like, so there's several reasons why you could be in purgatory, like if it's not decided yet whether you can go to heaven or hell, and different things like that. I mean, I know in some, depending on what you believe in, they think that's because obviously there's people in the world that believe all sorts of different things, isn't there? But I know that some people think that for some people that believe in like cryptids, like for people out there that believe in like monsters, whether it be werewolves and things like that, they say that that's where that creatures like that go when they die, because they can't go to heaven or hell, because that's a place for that. It's like just for humans and things like that. But I don't know. That's interesting to talk about anyway, isn't it?
Well, my mum always said that, because I used to say to her, "Will I see my dog when I go to heaven, Mum?" She said, "No, there won't be no animals there."
Right. Just for humans only.
Just the human.
I always think it's very interesting. I don't know if you've ever thought the same thing. You hear all these. There's all these like ghost stories throughout histories, isn't there, and tales, and like it's pretty much always humans. Maybe every now and again there might be a dog or a cat or maybe a horse. But you never hear of like ghost anything else. Do you know what I mean? You never hear of like, I was a ghost giraffe. Do you know what I mean? Or like, I was a ghost tortoise. Do you know what I mean?
I'm being hunted by.
Or like, you know what I mean? Like, I was a ghost mammoth. Or like a ghost dinosaur or something like that. And I always think that it's like, Why aren't there like ghosts of those
dinosaurs?
things? Do you know what I mean? Why is it always
Ghost dinosaurs
never
sounds
thought of it.
terrifying. I'm not gonna lie.
Can you imagine that? Just like walking
Imagine
home
being
with
haunted by a dinosaur.
a ghost T-Rex just
Yeah.
chasing your car when you're like on your way home.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Well, there's another whole different subject there with the dinosaur thing, and
Yeah?
yeah,
What are your views on dinosaurs?
dinosaurs, they didn't exist.
You don't think that dinosaurs
No,
existed?
they did not.
Why don't you
That's a hoax. Couldn't proper follow the money
Why don't you think that dinosaurs existed?
because they haven't got the bones.
But they do.
They have bones, but they've not found a proper whole skeleton.
They found almost complete skeletons. Obviously, it's been
Almost.
66 million years since dinosaurs went extinct from the K2 extinction. So obviously, it's just like a long time period, isn't there? So there's like not very many complete remains left. But no, completely fair enough. I mean, I obviously do believe in dinosaurs. If you don't, obviously, completely fair enough. Completely fair enough. But okay, is there any other reasons that you don't believe in dinosaurs other than the
No, I
fact that you
just don't believe in it.
Oh no, fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. Obviously, I think I have heard this theory before, and obviously because by this point, what fossils are, they've mineralized, so they're essentially like rocks almost.
So do you believe in fossil fuels?
Well, fossil fuels like oil and stuff. So like, oil is essentially like made up of dinosaurs, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you believe it's fossil fuels or oil?
Well, I think some of it is. Yeah, like I mean, I said the term like fossil fuel. Yeah. So what do you think it is?
I think there's oil all over the place, and it's nothing to do with fossil.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously there is from my limited knowledge. Obviously, I'm not by any means an expert on oil, but as far as I'm like, depending on where you live on the planet, there are obviously bigger oil reserves than others. I know that Texas has like a massive oil reserve. Think places like that. I'm pretty sure that Russia does as well, doesn't it? Has like a lot.
Well, that's where a lot of the wars start because some of the countries are rich in minerals.
Yeah.
And that's who they're going to fight to get these minerals. So that's where a lot of the wars tend to
Yeah. Sure.
come in play.
Yeah. Oh no, fair enough. What would you say to anybody out there? Obviously, because there's really die-hard skeptics out there. What would you say to anybody out there that would hear your story about your mum that would say that it wasn't supernatural, it wasn't really like a demon that was with her, anything like that? It was like all in her head, and what would you say to those people?
They didn't see her.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Oh yeah, that's really interesting. I have to ask that question because otherwise, what will happen is obviously people will accuse me of being biased, or do you know what I mean? Or it's like you're not having a well-rounded conversation. And as I said, I'm just interested. I have no dog in the fight either way, dog in the race. I'm just I just find it interesting to meet different people and talk to them about their experiences and their stories and their opinions. Are there any sort of other interesting stories or cool stories that you wanna talk about, or anything that you could touch on, or anything like that?
Was there anything more in the book?
Not
Trigger in my
particularly.
mind.
No.
Obviously, you said earlier on that you had
Dark
lots of sort of like
stories.
dark tales and dark stories. I know that I keep harping on about that, but that was just very intriguing. I didn't know if you had any particularly ones that were on the top of your head or anything like that you haven't already touched on, or.
I remember when Nan Wall was alive.
So is that your
My grandmother.
your grandmother? Is that your mum's mum? Right.
Her partner died.
Right.
Her first partner. He died of pneumonia years ago. And just before he died, his funny was, he was starting to eat properly and that. You would think he was pulling through. But all of a sudden, he went.
Right.
And it was a sudden death. She moved house and she moved into a flat. Started getting on with her life. But she always used to say, when I used to fall asleep in the chair at night, Joe her husband then, his name was Joseph, always used to put his hand on her shoulder and say, "Come on, Nelly, time for bed."
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Did that every night.
That's very intriguing. What are your views on things like cryptids and stuff like that? I know that you said that. Who was it that you said was walking through the graveyard and they said that they could hear the dead moaning?
Oh, cousin.
That was your cousin. What are your views on like the wider supernatural world? Do you believe in like things that go bump in the night? You hear lots of like stories throughout the world.
Oh yeah, I do believe in hauntings.
Yeah. And you believe in sort of like maybe creatures that aren't known to mankind that maybe...
What, you mean the aliens?
Maybe alien. It could be aliens, but obviously there's like all sorts. I mean, we've talked on this show before about there's all sorts of cryptids. There's so many. If you look into it, it's tales of people that are having strange encounters all over the world. I said, make what you want from it. A lot of people just say it's rubbish, but a lot of people say it's real at the same time. Whether it's it could be werewolves. I remember. Bullwinkle telling me one about there was like this weird monkey man apparently that like plagued India for a few weeks or something once, and it was like this half man half monkey type creature. There's a lot actually in the United States. I don't know, because there's a lot of wilderness in the United States. Obviously there's famous things like Bigfoot, but then there's also I know that in is it Michigan? I know in Michigan there's this thing called the Dog Man, and apparently it's like this half man half dog thing, which supposedly is like killed people. There's all sorts of like different cryptids. What do you think about things like that?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we don't know about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of underground tunnels where a lot of experiments have gone on, and there are. These experiments, I think, have got loose, and people have actually seen them. I do believe that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. We were talking about one
because you hear people talking about cloning.
Yeah.
And all that sort of thing. If they cloned a sheep, so they're messing around with God's.
And it's a fact creation. As well that, as you said, people are trying to make hybrids like that. We talked about Cannock Chase. Do you remember? I think it was Cannock Chase, wasn't it? We were talking about.
I think so.
It was the one that there was this place up. It's just I think it's fairly nearish Birmingham, but like out, sort of like northwest of Birmingham, but like in the middle of the woods. And apparently it was plagued by this almost what people said that they'd be walking their dogs in the woods. And apparently there was almost like this pig-human hybrid that was like, but apparently that site was what around there. It was an old US and UK military base from the Cold War, from when obviously there was tensions between Russia and the West after World War II for all those decades. And supposedly, it was like a top secret US and UK military facility in the middle of the woods where they used to do experiments and stuff. And it just so happened that this is where. So a lot of theories are that maybe something escaped from there. I know that obviously during the Second World War, I can't remember if it was Russians or Nazis, but they were trying to make chimp-human hybrids because obviously they knew that they would be physically stronger, but also more likely to take orders without question. Because obviously they wouldn't be quite as intelligent as humans. But obviously more intelligent than chimps, and they would be just like very, very strong, and they would just start churning them out. And from what is like documented to the public, I can't remember which way it was round. At first apparently they tried to put a man's brain into a chimp's body, and then they put that chimp's brain into the man's body. And I think that the chimp with the man's brain just died as soon as they tried to revive it. But apparently the man's body with the chimp's brain, they for a split second they tried to revive it, and apparently the eyes opened, looked around in like shock and horror, and it lived for about 10 seconds and then died. But that's only what's known about. I mean, do you know what I mean? But that's quite creepy. Really Imagine being a chimp and then waking up in a man's body and being like, what the hell is going on? And then just for like 10 seconds then dying. But that's even just what's known about. So there's definitely some weird stuff going on in the world, and I'm sure that there's lots of things going on behind closed doors, obviously, that we're not aware of.
I could tell you lots about that.
Yeah? Well, I say you obviously welcome to come back another day.
Yeah,
and we can really talk about like conspiracy theories and really go off the deep end with that, because we love conspiracy theories and we love talking about all these tales. And as I said with everything, all these things I talk about, I don't have a dog in a race. I don't necessarily believe it strongly one way or the other. But it's interesting. It's something to think about, and I like to whoever is listening to the show to also just be able to get their clogs turning and get them thinking about it, and see and whether it's just an interesting story to them to hear, or whether it's that you then are listening to that and then you believe it one way or another. That's all cool. I just think it's at the end of the day it's interesting to get the information out there. I know that there's been some really interesting stuff as well. I can't remember what this one was called off the top of my head. I think Stranger Things is based on it. Did you know that Stranger Things, the show's loosely based on a real story?
Really?
Yeah. So I can't remember exactly what it was called now. I know there's the Philadelphia experiment, but that was different. That was when they tried to teleport.
telekinesis
That was-
with 11 is based on a true story. Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it was like,
I've
so
heard that.
they would take kids and they would do like psychic experiments, and I think the whole thing was that they think that they accidentally opened up like some strange portal, and supposedly some people say that some strange creature came through it, killed like most of the people in the base, escaped, went off into the woods, and was never seen again.
Never seen again.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's fascinating.
I love stuff like
even
that.
if it's just BS, it's an interesting story, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of truth in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we don't know one half.
No.
The tunnels that are well and truly underground go many miles under. We don't know one half.
I remember hearing like an interesting thing as well, and yet again, I mean, make what you want of this, but I remember thinking it was an interesting fact. Did you know that you heard of like the Appalachian Mountains in America?
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell? Like you've heard of the Appalachian
Yeah.
Mountains? There's a lot of folklore and a lot of mysticism about the Appalachian Mountains, and apparently the people that grew up in I'm just trying to think what states in America the Appalachians are in. I think it's like Pennsylvania is one. I think potentially maybe Georgia. Anyway, a lot of people that grow up in like those rural states where the Appalachian Mountains are, so that they're brought up to have like a healthy respect for the Appalachian Mountains and the woods, and not to go into them alone, especially not at night. And
Because of skinwalkers.
all sorts of things.
all
Yeah, skinwalkers,
sorts.
they hear strange noises, almost like little girls' voices, like telling them to come into the forest, all sorts of things. One thing I think is very interesting is apparently, even if you go back like as far as like geologists can even map like the history of the Earth, obviously water levels have risen and fallen over the ages, so sometimes there might have been like parts of the world that were underwater that are now now out of the water, and vice versa. But apparently the Appalachian Mountains are like the only thing that's ever just been out of the sea for like for forever. So I know that some people think that there might be some sort of like, whether it's like actual creatures, like animals, creatures, whatever you want to call it, or entities, whatever you want to talk about it, that have obviously been able to exist there without almost being tampered with for like as long as history goes
Bit
back.
like Antarctica.
Yeah. But I think that's an intriguing thing to think about, isn't it? But is there anything else you both want to talk about before we wrap up the show, or?
I can't think of anything. No.
I say, obviously, you're welcome to come back another time. We can really go off the deep end. Maybe you could bring like a list of all the conspiracy theories you want to talk
my
about, and we
word.
could just tackle each one like one by one. I know you're looking at Darcey like we're going to be here a long time. Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah. Well, no, if you're happy to wrap up, we'll wrap up here. Thanks so much, Tracy, for coming on.
Thank you for having
really
us.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much to you, Darcey, as well.
Very
And remember,
welcome.
if anybody's in Somerset and around Bridgewater, sort of Taunton, Burnham Way, if you need your haircut, go to the Blue Barber in the High Street, Bridgewater. Best barber around. Thanks so much, ladies. Really appreciate your time. And thanks, everyone, for listening to
Thank you
Pandora's
very
Box
much.
today. We'll be back same time next week.